Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari. Bhakti Jayo Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunadira Vanachari Yamunadira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotrashata Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembly devotees, all glories to the assembly devotees, all glories to the assembly devotees, all glories to Shishi, Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotama Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. 18 and 19, okay. So we're reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 66, Paundraka, the false Vasudeva, verses 18 and 19. Āyodhanaṁ tat ratha-vāji-kuñjara dvipat-kharoṣṭrair ariṇāvakhaṇḍitaiḥ babhau citam moda-vahaṁ manasvinām ākrīḍanam bhūta-pateḥ ivolbaṇam āyodhanaṁ tad ratha-vāji-kuñjara āyodhanaṁ tad ratha-vāji-kuñjara dvipat-kharoṣṭrair ariṇāvakhaṇḍitaiḥ dvipat-kharoṣṭrair, ariṇāvakhaṇḍitaiḥ, babhau citam, moda-vahaṁ manasvinām, babhau citam, moda-vahaṁ manasvinām, ākrīḍanam bhūta-pater ivolbaṇam, ākrīḍanam bhūta-pater ivolbaṇam, āyodhanaṁ tad ratha-vāji-kuñjara, dvipat-kharoṣṭrair, ariṇāvakhaṇḍitaiḥ, babhau citam, moda-vahaṁ manasvinām, ākrīḍanam bhūta-pater ivolbaṇam. Next, please. ratha-vāji-kuñjara, dvipat-kharoṣṭrair, babhau citam, bhūta-pater ivolbaṇam. Mataji?
āyodhanaṁ tad ratha-vāji-kuñjara, dvipat-kharoṣṭrair, babhau citam, moda-vahaṁ manasvinām, ākrīḍanam bhūta-pater ivolbaṇam.
Āyodhanaṁ, battlefield. Tat, that. Ratha, with the chariots. Vaji, horses. Kuñjara, elephants. Dvipat, two-legged, humans. Khara, mules. Uṣṭraiḥ, and camels. Ariṇā, by his disc. Avakhaṇḍitaiḥ, cut to pieces. Babhau, shone. Citam, spread. Moda, pleasure. Vaham, bringing. Manasvinām, to the wise. Ākrīḍanam, the playground. Bhūta-pateḥ, the Lord of ghostly spirits. Lord Shiva. Iva, as if. Ivolbaṇam, horrible. Translation. The battlefield, strewn with the dismembered chariots, horses, elephants, humans, mules, and camels that had been cut to pieces by the Lord's disc's weapon, shone like the gruesome playground of Lord Bhūtapati, giving pleasure to the wise. Purport. Srila Prabhupada describes this scene as follows. All the devastated battlefield appeared like the dancing place of Lord Shiva at the time of dissolution of the world. The warriors who were on the side of Krishna were very much encouraged by seeing this. They fought with great strength. Text number 19. Athaha pondrakam shaurir bho bho pondrakayat bhavan dutavakyanamam maha tany astrany uṣṭraiḥ te. Translation. Lord Krishna then addressed Pondraka. My dear Pondraka, the very weapons you spoke of through your messenger, I now release into you. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes as follows in Krishna. At this time, Lord Krishna told Pondraka, Pondraka, you requested me to give up my symbols of Lord Vishnu, specifically my disc. Now I will give it to you. Be careful. You falsely declared yourself to be Vasudeva, imitating myself, therefore no one is a greater fool than you. From this statement of Krishna, it is clear that any rascal who advertises himself as God is the greatest fool in the human society. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yantah pravishya mama vachim mam prasuptam sanjivayate kila shakti daraksvadhamna anyam shahasta charana shravanat vagadim pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam svasyastu vishvasya kalah prasidatam deyantu bhutani shivam mithodya manascha badram vajata tadokshache haveshyatam no matir habhyahaitu ki. So, we are reading one of the most humorous chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, where the false Vasudeva, Pondraka, is claiming to be God, and he will reap the results of his false claims. It's very interesting that in Harivamsa Purana, there are more details to this story. It is explained in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that Pondraka became proud because of the flatterers around him. The flatterers around him used to say to him, you're the greatest, you're the best, you are Vasudeva himself, and ultimately he believed it himself. It's a very important dynamic because usually the followers made the leader. The foolish followers make the foolish leader even more foolish than he is. But in Harivamsa Purana there are interesting details to this story, how the pride completely deprives someone of his intelligence. Here, Srila Prabhupada says that he is the greatest fool by quoting Krishna himself. But in Harivamsa Purana it is said that Pondraka, being convinced that he is God himself, being absolutely convinced that he is Vasudeva, he called all his kings who are under him, the little kings whom he was ruling. And he made an order, very strong order, from now on every man has to call me Vasudeva. And if somebody will fail to call me Vasudeva, if somebody will fail to call me the Supreme Lord with all my insignia, every time you would pronounce my name, you have to call. This is Vasudeva with his chakra and with his mace and with his conch and with his padma. So he made it very official, and he said, anyone who will fail to call me properly with all my titles, he will be punished, and I will extract extra taxes from him and put him in prison. And then, which is even more interesting, then Narada Muni decided to visit this fool. Narada Muni wanted to check, is it real that there is somebody who is claiming to be God in the presence of God himself. So Narada Muni came to visit Pondraka, and Pondraka, of course, very politely received him. And then he started saying, my dear Narada Muni, I know you're traveling everywhere, so why don't you travel on my behalf and tell everyone that I am God? So he wanted to employ even Narada Muni to glorify himself. It's actually very interesting dynamic, because nowadays there are plenty of similar fools who are claiming to be God or demigod or whatever great personality they want to claim to be, and they usually order to their followers to call them accordingly, and then they use the mass media to proclaim their glory. So in the case of Pondraka, he wanted to use Narada Muni as the original mass media representative. He specifically said, you're traveling everywhere, so who is better than you to proclaim my glory? Of course, Narada Muni said, you're a fool. I'm not going to do this, but it will be very interesting when you fight with Krishna himself, and then I will see what's going to happen. And of course, Pondraka, being excited by this prospect, he decided to challenge Krishna, and this story is explained here in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. He sent his messenger, and the messenger told the message. It is explained again in Vishnu Puran and Harivamsa Puran that messenger was a Brahman, and Brahman was also very foolish. He came on behalf of his foolish ruler, and he started challenging Krishna, and ultimately read the message that you should give up all your signs of Vasudeva. Give up your disc, give up your chakra and mace and Padma. And Krishna said, oh, of course, I will give it up. But let me deliver all this insignia to Pondraka personally. That's my only condition. I will definitely give it to him, no problem. But I want to do it personally. Krishna is very personal in his approach to all these people. So he is telling this, and it's very important. There is very interesting but important detail in the story which is described in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that Balaram, who is the original spiritual master, was away from Dwaraka at that time. And this Pondraka, he decided to attack Dwaraka at the time when Balaram was absent, because he thought it's an opportune moment and Krishna would be weaker without Balaram, and I have a good chance to finish my contester, my rival. And of course, the significance of this story, very important significance of this important story, is that in the absence of spiritual master, this kind of fools starting attack Krishna. Actually, the indication, the implied meaning of this little detail, very important implied meaning of this detail, is that it's the prime duty of a spiritual master to completely dismantle the false ideas that somebody else besides God is God. And that's exactly what Srila Prabhupada was doing. He knew, he understood that this is the prime duty of the spiritual master to completely destroy all these false ideas. Because all these fools and rascals, as Srila Prabhupada very lovingly called them on a numerous of occasions, they can only proliferate if there is no strong preaching. If there is no strong opposition against these false claims of these fools and rascals. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he took special pleasure to call them fools and rascals. He practically enjoyed calling them fools and rascals, again, because he knew that these people who claim to be God, they're destroying the chances of people to surrender to real God. They're destroying the chances of people to experience something real, and that's why Prabhupada was speaking so strongly against them. And of course, in his pranam mantra, he proudly says, Nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya desha tarine. He says that this servant of Lord Chaitanya is protecting Western countries, and not only Western countries, nowadays Eastern countries, Western countries, the whole world is Nirvishesha Shunyavada, infested by these false ideas that everyone is God. I am God, you're God, we're all God, and we can do whatever we like. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, he was making fun of these people. Shinaji, the devotee, great devotee of our movement, he tells the story how he was the follower of Chinmayananda, and he said when he met Srila Prabhupada, he would always tell Srila Prabhupada, yeah, Narasimha, Krishna, Ram, they are okay, they are avatars, but greater than them is Brahman. And they all are coming there from Brahman, and Brahman is the highest. And Prabhupada said, who taught you this nonsense? Where they are coming from? Where is this nonsense? He said, Chinmayananda, he is my guru. And Prabhupada said, this was the first challenge towards Chinmayananda. He said, he's your guru, and he claims he is God, but he has gray hairs, and he doesn't look young. Ask your guru why he doesn't look young. If he is the controller of the material nature, why he is getting old? And Shinaji went to his guru and said, if you're controller of this nature, why you're getting old? And Chinmayananda said, because otherwise people will not respect me. So I'm getting gray hairs so that people would respect me. Shinaji went back to Srila Prabhupada and said, he's saying that, otherwise people would not respect him. Srila Prabhupada said, it's a nonsense. Ask him next time when you meet him if he is the seed-giving father of all the living entities. Krishna says that he is the seed-giving father. Please check it out if he is the seed-giving father of all the living entities. Of course, that failed. And ultimately, Shinaji said, Srila Prabhupada came, met with him and said, please call Chinmayananda for a debate with me. And Shinaji asked, what will be the point of your debate? What you're going to discuss in the debate? And Prabhupada said, the point of our debate will be whether Chinmayananda will be able to hold to pick up the Govardhan hill and hold it for 7 days. That will be the point of our debate. So let's debate on this point. And of course, ultimately, Chinmayananda had to admit that Chinmayananda didn't want to debate on this point. He admitted the defeat. So the point here is that this is the duty of a spiritual master to destroy these false philosophies, because as Prabhupada says in one very important letter, this philosophy is the fourth stage of a disease. Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful description of the problems of a human being, and he says that the problem of rebellious human beings who live in this earth are fourfold, and these fourfold problems, according to the extent of the gravity of the problem, takes the form of the disease of this independent existence. And according to the gravity of this problem, the fourth stage is the most deadly one. Basically, Srila Prabhupada, he compares this disease of independent mentality. I'm independent on God. I can do whatever you like. I can establish any norms, whatever I like. I'm, completely, totally independent. And he said there are 4 stages of this disease. It's really amazing how Srila Prabhupada practically turns upside down all the dogmas of the accepted so-called Hinduism. Because by saying that there are 4 stages of this disease of independence, he means, believe it or not, he means dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These 4 great purusharthas, which are proclaimed all over Vedas and which are proclaimed by all the teachers, Srila Prabhupada says this is the 4 stages of disease. The first stage of disease, he says, he formulates it slightly differently, but he explains how even dharma is a disease. You may be shocked by hearing this, because according to all the accepted teachings of the Vedas, dharma is the greatest, proclaim of the Vedas and Vedic scriptures. Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes the least manifestation of this disease of independence of God is that you proclaim to be overly religious, to be zealous of religion as opposed to God. There is a very subtle problem here when we very strictly follow dharma, like it was, of course, indicated in the story of Maharaj Yudhishthira, when he was really hesitant to say that Ashwatthama was dead on the order of Krishna. When we put dharma over God, that's the problem. Sometimes people, they become very religious, too much religious, so much religious that they put dharma over God himself. I am more religious than God. I am more whatever it is, whatever manifestation it is. And this is this very subtle manifestation of disease, and therefore Prabhupada says that the first stage of this disease is to be too religious, without understanding the essence of religion, because in religion, in the real religion, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam prajaya. Just give up all the dharmas. Surrender unto me. Dharmas are subsidiary to me. Dharmas are derivative to me. Don't put dharmas over me. So that's the first stage of disease. And then Prabhupada says, then the next stage of disease, by being overly religious, fanatically religious, you ultimately give up religion and start chasing money. That's what we have. We can see this dynamic in the human history. Perhaps America, the greatest nation of the world, is the best example of this dynamic. America started off as a very religious country. It's still, to a greater extent, very religious country. Not, of course, New York and California, but besides New York and California, everything else is pretty religious. But the result of improperly understood religion, the purpose of religion, is artha, and then ultimately, because you pursue artha, then you forget about religion itself. And that's exactly what happened with America. You know, it started off as a very religious country, as a country of religious rebels. The country where majority of population were those people who were persecuted because of their sincere pursuit of religion, who emigrated to America from Europe. But ultimately, you know, in God we trust, as it is said in dollar, but ultimately they only trust in dollar, not in God. Like the joke about this is that in God we trust, everyone else pays cash. You know, so ultimately, the ultimate trust, the ultimate faith is invested into artha. And therefore Prabhupada says artha is the second stage of disease. You start off as being very religious, but inadvertently, subconsciously you think that religion is to make you prosperous in this world. And then, of course, when you become prosperous, you enjoy to the fullest extent, and karma comes. But then he says that the deadliest disease, that the deadliest extent of this disease of independence is moksha. And how moksha, which is again supposedly the most glorious achievement of a human being, the fourth purushartha, the fourth goal, the highest goal of all, how it is the fourth stage of disease, Prabhupada says, then ultimately in this progression, being frustrated in your attempts to become happy, even by excessive sense gratification, ultimately you decide to become happy by proclaiming yourself to be God. I am God. I am the Supreme. So, and Prabhupada says, he writes this letter in connection with one of his disciples who was his first sannyas disciple, and then ultimately started preaching Mayavad philosophy. And he said he has the fourth stage of disease. He contracted this deadly disease, and ultimately nothing good will happen. And we all know what happened. Nothing good, unfortunately, happened. Prabhupada was right. So we have to be very clear how this progression goes. That we may start as being very, very religious by putting Dharma over God, by putting Dharma over love of God. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he came and he says, Prema Pumartha Mahan. He basically rejected all the four other goals. He said the only real goal of the human endeavors, the only real goal is prema. And if you forget about prema, if the prema is being overshadowed or eclipsed by other goals, even if it's the goal of Dharma, as glorious as it is, as pure as it is, if it's even slightly eclipses the real goal of human endeavors, which is love of God, then the disease will progress until it reaches the fourth stage. And we know the fourth stage is incurable. The fourth stage of cancer is incurable. It is already in your bones. So this is how it goes, and we have to really see this progression, or understand this unfortunate development. Sometimes we can see it when devotees, they come to Krishna consciousness movement inspired by the preaching of Srila Prabhupada, but then somehow or other they start deviating this direction or that direction. And basically there are only two directions in which we can deviate. One is karma, and karma basically means karma kanda, which means dharma, which means putting dharma over love of God. And another one is, of course, mayavad or jnana, when we again say that moksha or liberation from the sufferings is higher than God. So the only proper path is the path of love. And therefore it is said in Katha Upanishad that the proper path is like the razor blade. It's very narrow. It's really narrow. Sometimes inspired by Srila Prabhupada's preaching, where he says it's the royal road to God. You know, we forget that this royal road, it starts like royal road, but then ultimately it becomes like razor's edge. The further we go, the more dangerous it becomes, because the deviations becomes more and more plausible, more and more possible due to different problems which we have and subtlety of these problems. In the beginning, we're dealing with very gross problems, and it's easy to deal with the gross problems. But the further we come towards the path of love, the more dangerous it may become. And therefore, it is very important to have the guidance of a spiritual master all the time. Sometimes people very foolishly say that we don't need the guidance. Srila Prabhupada already wrote everything. It's all in his books. But the guidance has to be there. The guidance has to be there all the way. Otherwise, there is a very great chance to go this direction or that direction. Now ultimately deviate from this narrow path of spiritual life. It's not by mistake that Katha Upanishad proclaims this. Uttishta jagrata prapyavaram nibodhata. Please get up. Raise up, O human being. You get this awake to the boon, to the blessings which you are entitled to. Every human being is entitled to achieve love of God. So Katha Upanishad says, yes, but then he says, what is this? Uttishta jagrata prapyavaram nibodhata. Durgas patham tat kavayo vadanti. The great sages, they say that this path is very difficult. This path is very difficult, and it's like the razor's edge. And of course, Prabhupada, many times to encourage us, the beginners on this spiritual path, he would say that this is a very easy path. Yes, it's a good preaching in the beginning, but then we have to understand that in this easy path to God, there are some dangers and problems which we will have to overcome. And one of the problems is, of course, this internal pride. Why do we need spiritual master? Because the presence of spiritual master in our life can help us to remain humble. Whereas without the spiritual master, it's very easy to imagine ourselves or to fantasize ourselves that we know everything ourselves. This pride is there. The false ego is the most dangerous element of our body. It is said that, you can cut some of your lungs and the lungs will regenerate. You can cut some of your liver, the liver will grow back. The false ego, you can cut false ego 99.9%, and only 0.1% of false ego remains, and then after some time it's 100% back. So the false ego is the most, capable to regenerate, or how you say this in proper English, I don't know. It's the most vital organ in our being. And therefore, no matter how much you cut it, little ego remains. And because little ego remains, in the proper condition, in the opportune conditions, the false ego will grow up. So the most important point of achieving love of God is humility. It is explained very beautifully in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that dainya, the internal feeling that I'm fallen, internal feeling that I need protection, that I always need the shelter of Krishna and spiritual master and great Vaishnavas. This internal feeling of dainya is basically synonymous to prema. And they are into interdependent relationship. When the dainya becomes great, the prema grows proportionately, and when prema grows proportionately, the dainya grows proportionately. As soon as we catch ourselves by thinking how great we are, by thinking ourselves to be great preachers or great teachers or great book distributors or great kirtaniyas or great pujaris or great whatever we are, we immediately have to think, now I'm fallen. This is the fall down. The moment this idea comes, the moment the shadow of this idea comes, means we are going away from Krishna. Means this disease of independence is spreading. The metastasis is the dangerous disease which we all have. The disease that I don't need anyone. I'm God myself. This disease is spreading. And therefore, society of devotees is so important. Srila Prabhupada created this society, and this society, ISKCON society, is a difficult society to be in. Why? Because spiritual life is difficult. It's a very difficult society. There is always somebody who will cut you down, but ultimately it's good. Once Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj told me a story. There was one Goswami from traditional background here in Vrindavan, and he had very good relationship with Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj when Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj was the temple president here in Vrindavan. And he would come to him and say, "Can I take sannyas in ISKCON? Can I take sannyas? I'm already in my last stage of my life. I want to take sannyas in ISKCON." And Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj was very surprised by this offer, and he said, "Don't you know ISKCON? ISKCON has its problems." He said, "Oh yeah, I know ISKCON very well. I know ISKCON very well. ISKCON has its problem. Everyone else also has its problem. I know Vrindavan very well. I know this scene very well. But what is good in ISKCON you can never grow too much. Somebody will always cut you down." So that's why I want to take sannyas in ISKCON. So that was his logic, and that was a good logic. So ultimately, that's the point, as Prabhupada says in this little purport, that when we imagine ourselves, no matter whom we imagine ourselves, and we always imagine ourselves somehow. We always have some sort of image of ourselves. At the moment we imagine ourselves, it may not necessarily be God. Somebody, you may be a little more humble and not imagine yourself as God, but you may imagine yourself as a great guru, great this or great that. At this moment, you're deviating from the path. And the problems are waiting for you, and that's why it's important to have spiritual guides all the time. It's important to have the society of devotees, and it's important to remain in glorious ISKCON mission, where Prabhupada established certain culture, which is sometimes little rough, but ultimately very beneficial for our spiritual health. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We have a couple of minutes for question. Yes, Maharaj.
And you used the example about Srila Prabhupada's books. All the guidance I need is there. 1977, after Srila Prabhupada left, how the guidance wasn't there, so many things happened. So as Prabhupada disciples, where do they get their guidance? You said one has to get guidance from the spiritual master, and you made it very personal. One has to be able to be chastised, instructed. So for the last 47 years, where do Srila Prabhupada's disciples get their personal guidance?
I think you're in a better position to answer this question than myself.
Yes, but you're the one that stated that, so I'm asking you the question. I wouldn't say those things in a class. No, honestly, how do we get that guidance?
Srila Prabhupada himself gave a very important example when he said at least on 2 occasions. Once when the conductor on the train told him, Swamiji, why you are printing these magazines? People will read magazines and throw them out. You should write the books. And then when the doctor in San Francisco came and said, you're just praying and praying and praying, you should walk more. And these 2 occasions, Srila Prabhupada said, my spiritual master spoke through these people. Somehow or other he recognized in a half-drunk doctor in San Francisco the voice of his spiritual master, and then the instruction which the conductor on the train gave to him again, the voice of his spiritual master. I guess the answer to this question is that if the meditation to the instructions of the spiritual master are very deep, then we can hear the voice of our spiritual master in the words of other people who approach us or in the events of our life. So I guess that's the secret. By deeply meditating on the orders of the spiritual master, and you're the best example of this deep meditation, then we can recognize how the spiritual master manifests himself, because spiritual master is the principle. He's a person, but he's also a principle, and this principle, Guru Tattva, can speak through other people. So that's my best answer to this difficult question. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. It probably is a similar question. So you mentioned very clearly that the devotee has to always be instructed by the spiritual master to be humble. Otherwise, he may deviate. So how does the spiritual master maintain his humility if the disciple sees him as good as God and he becomes intoxicated as so?
Yeah, that's my starting point. This Paundraka became Paundraka because his disciples told him that he is Vasudeva, not Paundraka. So, the only point is that, see, we should very clearly understand that my constitutional position is that Jivira Svarupa Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. I am always Das. That's my constitutional position. Incidentally, for some period of time, I may play some roles. But if the role becomes my identity, I am in trouble. We may play a role of a guru, we may play a role of a father, role of a king, temple president. It's temporary roles, but when the role or the temporary role which we are playing becomes our identity, it means we are in trouble. So no matter which role I play, I have to understand my real identity. I'm Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I'm the servant. Like Prabhupada, he was teaching this by calling his disciples as his spiritual masters. You are representatives of my spiritual master. The spiritual master has to see his disciples as the representatives of his guru and basically his gurus. That's how he should see. Yes, temporarily, yes, sometimes I have to chastise them or sometimes I have to give the instruction, but ultimately it's a role. It's not my identity. So we have to be reminded again and again and again, and of course scriptures are abundant in saying that, what is our real nature. Otherwise, if guru becomes our false ego, that's the problem. If I falsely claim I am a guru, and I try to become guru for everyone, not for some limited number of foolish people who thinks I am a guru, then it's a problem. I am dasa. I am dasa anudasa. I remember there was one devotee in Russia, and he would always, when he called somebody, he would say, "I am such and such Prabhu." Please call me Prabhu. And when somebody calls you Prabhu, very soon you will expect that somebody will call you Mahaprabhu. So I'm not Prabhu. I am Dasa. No matter how other call me, other may call me Prabhu. That's their problem. That's not my problem. My identity is I am Dasa. Other may call me Guru. My identity, I am Dasa, I am not Guru. I don't think I am Guru. I am playing a role of Guru, that's fine. But I am not a Guru. I don't know, Dharmatma should answer this difficult question.
Thank you for allowing me. Maharaj, whether we go to east or west, any part of the world we go, it's not India. India is supposed to be a spiritual country. So whether we come to India or America, just everywhere we found rascals, rogues, pretenders. Any part of the world we preach, they're all like that.
Okay.
But in the first place, how comes in presence of the Supreme Lord, a pretender comes, posing himself that he is God, until he was claiming actually, until his arms were completely severed. Please, highlight us.
See, that's, again, that's the illustration of how dangerous this idea is, how dangerous our mind is. He was completely convinced that he is God himself. By the way, it's written in Harivamsha Puran that his father was also Vasudev. Therefore, when he was claiming that he's Vasudev, he was thinking that he was right. But the point is that even in presence of God, you can imagine yourself to be God. Mayavadis do this. They know the scriptures. They know Bhagavad Gita, and still they think it is. So it's just the illustration how we should never trust our mind, because our mind is always there to tell how great we are. And we are little innocent soul, always ready to believe our mind.
But without mercy of the Lord, even a blade of grass doesn't move. And he is sitting in everybody's heart at Chaitya Guru, and he is inspiring us from within. Still he didn't come down seeing the Lord?
Well, the blade of grass doesn't move, but we are not the blade of grass. We don't consider ourselves as a blade of grass, therefore we move independently on God. So as soon as we consider ourselves a blade of grass, we will not move without God. But any other understanding of oneself will make us move in the wrong direction. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I just very not humbly would like to say that my first book came out in English. So if somebody would be interested, these books are available here. Thank you.
Vigyan Swami Maharaj ki.